thankfully, as a fitness expert, was able to craft a step-by-step detailed game plan to get me strong and vibrant again. And I never had a setback because I took all these little baby steps, and there was strength and there was cardio and flexibility and balance. I just gently built myself up one day, one bit of time. And now it's just about helping other people through it.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm a physician, mom, life coach, musician, author, publisher, and I am passionate about using storytelling as a tool to help you build your most beautiful future after you reclaim your story. Thank you so much for being here. We have an amazing show, and we have someone here who has done just that with her story and brought incredible energy along with it despite life's challenges. We have Fitz Koehler. Fitz Koehler is an entrepreneur. She is a podcast host herself of the Fitzness show. She has authored several books herself. She is a race announcer, and she is a cancer survivor. And despite everything she's come through, as I said, she goes about life with incredible energy, and I can't wait to share that with our audience today. Fitz, thank you so much for being here.
Dr. Shafer, thank you so much for having me on your show. What a privilege.
Oh, it's a privilege for us to have you here and to share your message with our listeners. So thank you. Can you give us an idea of what life was like before your cancer diagnosis and then after, as you are building this incredible business, and then you have this new life challenge on top of everything else that comes with being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I've been in business. I think I incorporated when I was 20, and I'm a
Wow.
fitness expert. I've been teaching fitness since I was just shy of 15. My master's is in exercise and sports sciences. Health and fitness is who I am. It's what I do. I walk the walk. And so in February of 2019, I was living my best life. The healthiest I'd ever been. And, I had two kids, 13 and 15, Ginger and Parker, and a booming career doing a ton of corporate keynote presentations and traveling the country as a race announcer. And, everything was perfect. Everything was absolutely perfect. And then when I was actually at a race weekend, I was I was out of town to run a race. I got out of the shower and I rubbed my under boob, and I felt it. I felt a lump. And that was 6 weeks after a crystal clear mammogram. And it wasn't something that, whoops, the doctor missed it. There was nothing there 6 weeks prior. So now I feel this grape size object. I thought it was a bean. The doctor said, no, that was a grape, Missy. But so I find that my cell phone's on the bathroom counter in the bathroom. This is what I want everyone to hear. Pay close attention. I picked the phone up immediately. I did not Google it. I did not call my friends or my mom and cry. I did not hem and haw and do guesswork. I called the freaking doctor and said, I found a lump. And she said, okay, can you come in tomorrow? And I said, well, no, I'm running a race tomorrow. And she said, okay, what about Monday? And I said, sure. So Monday I went in for the appointment, which set off an appointment for a mammogram and ultrasound a few days later. That radiologist said, you know what, you do have a mass that's concerning, but we also see 3 hard swollen lymph nodes. Nodes that could be a real problem. And that's when I knew I had a real problem. So punch biopsy the next morning, and within a few days I had a surgeon call and say, Fitz, I am so sorry, but you indeed have breast cancer, and it is already spread to multiple lymph nodes. It is running through you like wildfire, and we need to treat you urgently and aggressively. And they did. And so I was set up for 15 months of chemotherapy. I had 33 rounds of radiation. I had several surgeries, but I also had some decisions to make, and I made some damn good decisions. And it changed the outcome, not only of my disease, but my life. I made some really good decisions that benefited me at that time, and then have really enhanced the quality of my life post-cancer.
Wow. Can you share those decisions with us that you made?
Yeah. So my first decision was perspective. And so perspective has always ruled my world. And I remember, gosh, it's got to be like 10 or so years ago. And I tell this story, but it's an important one. I was in the grocery store in the 10 items or less checkout lane in a hurry. The woman in front of me was about 9,000 years old. She had 500 items on the belt, and she was paying with a check. And so in my mind, I was thinking, "Zzz, I gotta go, lady. What are you doing here?" But I would never say anything to a woman who was 9,000 years old. I just was stewing internally.
Mm.
And then I looked at the aisle, the checkout lane next to me, and there was a beautiful little girl with a shiny red, blue, and yellow Snow White dress, and she had a very bald head. And I thought, well, for crying out loud, what that family must be going through, what that little girl must be going through, and how dare I sit and stew over this stupid line and being late. And so I had already had pretty awesome perspective before that happened. But since then, I decided if it's not cancer, I'm not going to worry about it. You can spill wine,
Mm.
you can spill sheep's blood all over my white carpet. I don't care. You could lock me in a traffic jam. As long as I'm not in the accident that caused a traffic jam, I will feel
Mm.
grateful to be stuck in my car. And so there's been nothing
Mhm.
to make me flinch at post that moment. I just really, I hate to say I don't empathize with people going through hard times, but sometimes I just look down on those who
Mm.
think, "Oh, I'm late. My flight's gonna be late. I'm gonna be okay, whatever. As long as your flight lands in one piece, we're
Yeah.
good, right?" So,
Yeah.
that obsession with perfection is not okay.
Mm.
So there I was, and I used to always say, "It's not cancer. It's not cancer," and then all of a sudden it was cancer, and I thought, "Oh boy, is this my time? Is this the time that I can freak out?" And
Mm.
so I certainly cried. I certainly stressed. There's very few things that come with the inordinate stress that
Mm.
cancer can bring. And I definitely thought I was dying and I was going to miss out on my children's future. And it was just very, very difficult. However, what I decided was to think about, perspective. And so for me,
Mm.
how lucky was I that I was not a child with cancer? To be a full
Mm.
fledged grown up with cancer was way better than being a child or a baby with cancer. And then I thought how lucky I am that it's not my child with cancer. And so for that,
Mm.
I would put on my big girl panties and I would forge on. So perspective was incredibly important. And once my doctor said, "Hey, no, we're going to cure you. You just have to endure the
Mm.
cure." Then I thought, okay, really, I'm going to have a hard year and a half. And it was brutal. It was nightmarish and so forth. But I
Mm.
always forced myself to have as good of an attitude as one could have in this situation. And then the other thing I decided was I was going to continue on with two things. Number one, my kids. If they had a show, a ceremony, a sporting event, I was going to be there, come hell or high water. Even if I had to
Mm.
escape from a hospital, I was not missing out on Ginger or Parker stuff. And I held to
Mm.
that. And then the other thing I decided was I was going to keep going with my career. And in the face of so many people saying things like, "Oh my God, you have cancer. You need to stay home and hide out." And even back then, wear
Mm.
a mask. Oh my gosh. You know what?
Yeah.
The only people we should be isolating are people that are highly contagious or death row
Mm.
inmates, right? We do not isolate people who are sick or have MS or whatever. That's the time where you
Mm.
should really focus on life. If your life is in harm's way,
Mm.
man, go take advantage of every opportunity you had. So I did not
Yeah.
hide out. I did not wear masks. I did not crawl under the carpet and let cancer take me before I was actually dead from cancer, right? I decided to continue on and
Mm.
I got on over 30 planes out of my hometown in Gainesville, Florida, and I traveled around the country. And even though I was violently ill, I mean, imagine
Mm.
if you had food poisoning. Would you travel on that day? There was something important at the other end of your travels, you might figure it out. And so that was my
Mhm.
life. I was constantly figuring out how to function, how to operate with
Yeah.
those side effects of food poisoning
Mhm.
or stomach bug or whatever. But I made it happen. And the great gift was, even when I slept on the hotel bathroom floors because the world was spinning, when I got
Mm.
up, and I got to either my start line or my stages. Absolutely every single thing that was wrong with me disappeared. I wasn't sick. I wasn't suffering. I wasn't exhausted. I got to be full force Fitz Koehler again. And that's the beauty of having something you're so passionate about. And for me,
Mm.
it's my people, right? It's my audience, it's my runners, it's my events. And I call it adrenaline, call it I don't know. I don't know, magic. It was just
Mm.
incredible. And if I had taken the advice of those who said, "Stay home, hide out," all I would have been was sick. And
Right.
instead, I got to be full force Fitz Koehler. And if you had the opportunity to see me versus 25,000 people at the LA Marathon or 15,000 in Buffalo, and it just, I those decisions were pivotal, crucial. I I think if all I was sick, I might not have survived. Even though I
Yeah.
believe I had a curable cancer, I think if I would have stayed home and yielded to the terrible advice to hide out, I
Mm.
probably would have died of grief and sadness and loneliness or
Mm.
whatever. So those
Yeah.
were two of the really big decisions I made, and um, I made life challenging on myself, and that's okay. I'm not afraid of challenges, and it all worked out.
Right?
The
And
end.
it sounds like you're inspired and motivated by challenges. You know that
Yeah,
about yourself. You started a business at the age of 20,
yeah,
and a fitness business that requires not only to understand business and
yeah,
marketing and all of those things, but to be committed to your health and your wellness throughout all of that, right? Showing up every single day
yeah,
for your business and for your body.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, you were true to yourself, and that's what really matters. And that's the tricky thing about advice, right? Is that advice is not really created for us. It comes from someone else's story. So listening
And
to yourself, yeah.
I think a lot of it comes from fear, right? People are just
Mhm.
afraid of everything. We saw a few years ago, the whole world operated on fear.
Oh yeah.
I had, I had hugged thousands and thousands of sweaty strangers, sweaty, germy strangers every weekend with the immune system of a garbage can.
Mm.
And I chose life. I chose my life and their life and
Mm.
adventure over fear. And the health aspect can't be understated because it was about my treatment was broken up into a few chunks, but the first 5 months of chemo was the doctor told me he was giving me the nastiest concoction of any
Mm.
that he gives to anyone. That I was getting the
Mhm.
worst. And so I came into round number 6. It was my final round, and I was kind of nervous, as you can imagine. And round number 1 of any of this stuff is kind of scary because it's the fear of the unknown. Well, round 6 of the
Mhm.
known, that known, really scary, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I go in and I'm a little shaky and stuff. And my oncologist, he says, Fitz, you are doing so great. And I said, what? He was like, you're doing so great. I'm so proud of you. I said, Dr. Gordon, I'm a catastrophe. Literally, my fingernails have ripped off. My innards have been through a cheese grater. There's
Mm.
nothing that's right with me right now. Why are you saying that? He said, Fitz, I'm not saying you haven't suffered. You've suffered tremendously, and I get it. However, if you were not so committed to health and fitness coming into this, if you had already not paid such close attention to your body to make it stronger and and prioritize nutrition before and during your treatment, there's no way you would have been able to
Mhm.
travel the country doing all these things you do. You likely would have been hospitalized. You might have had a feeding tube, which likely would have led to infections and all these things. So, this health and
Mm.
fitness thing you do, it really matters. And it was so funny because, again, I've been doing it my whole life and preaching the benefits. And then, even though I was in like the doldrums, everything was wrong with me. And then the light bulb went off, and I thought, oh, it would have been so much worse. It just would have
Mm.
been
Back to the
so
gratitude,
much
yeah.
worse. And I
Yeah.
certainly had to dial back my fitness big time. But if I when I was in the shower, I stretched. When I was having a sick in bed
Mm.
day, I did leg lifts. I did bridges. I was constantly doing whatever I could to move the needle forward and prohibit myself from sliding further backwards. And so
Mm.
that's a real lesson for folks is, you know, crisis will come. Nobody gets out of this world unscathed, right? So prepare
Mhm.
your body and your mind to do battle today. So when that, injury or illness strikes, you are far more prepared for it and you will recover and rebound far more efficiently and effectively than if you hadn't taken your health seriously in advance.
Yeah, that is extraordinarily excellent advice.
Thanks.
And yeah, it's obviously this is what you do.
Yeah,
And do what you can when you can,
that's
and
it.
that is going to evolve,
Hmm.
right? And praise yourself and have gratitude for the things you can do. Some days getting out of bed, that's like, I deserve a standing ovation. I got out of
Yep.
bed.
Yeah.
Whether it's because you're in a really dark and challenging place in your life mentally with your mental
Yeah.
health, or if physically you're so ill from your chemotherapy that you don't want to move because you're afraid you're going to throw up and you already throw up 10 times and
Yeah.
you just feel done and you can't go another second. But then you say, okay, I feel like I can't get through today, but what can I do to get through this minute?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm sure you see this as a physician. There's people are always focused on what they can't do. Oh, I can't run a
Mm,
marathon. I can't do that. I can't. All right, well, I never asked you to run a marathon or do an Ironman or what. Let's see what you can do. So
mm,
stop with your excuses, stop with your constant negativity. And, nobody
mm,
expects you to be representing Team America in the Olympics this summer. Okay, there's some people doing that. It's not you. You're probably also not posing on the cover of Victoria's Secret magazine. So, what are the expectations here? It's you
mm,
trying to be a better version of you. So, can't, to me, can't is something capable people say to excuse themselves for trying. And
mm.
I don't buy it. There have been very few scenarios where people actually couldn't do something. So
Exactly.
do something.
Do something. Forward momentum.
Yeah.
Can't is like a door stopper, right? Like you're
Yeah.
trying to open the door, it hits it, and you can't move, right? You literally can't. If you get rid of can't and you say I
Yeah.
can and focus on what you can, exactly as you said, then at least you have forward momentum. It doesn't have to be fast right now, but the more you show yourself and the more you move, it's going to pick up over time.
Yeah, and those habits really mean so much. It's mental health, thankfully, is a big focus. People are starting to talk about that.
Mm,
But mental health requires the same discipline and commitment that physical health does. And so, it's interesting. People ask me, well, how do you deal with grief and stress? And I have it. My life's not perfect, and I have jerks in my life, and I'm managing
mm,
this or that. But my gut response when that negative thing comes into my world is, what can I do to feel better? I instantly start thinking, okay, it's time to go walk my dogs, or I'm going to go exercise, or I
mm,
have a guitar, I'm going to play music. I'm a solutions person, and it's
mm,
funny. My both of my kids were in the gifted program when they were kids, and my daughter's elementary school gifted teacher, she might have been in second grade. The kids would be stuck, and the teacher would say, "Figure it out." Figure it out. You're gifted.
I
Figure it
love
out.
that.
And so even if you don't have this sky high IQ, you can figure it out. Have a list of things you like. Okay, I like watching movies. I like going for a walk. I like being outside. Maybe just being outside is better than being inside. I like going in the car, blasting great music. Do it. It doesn't have to be healthy. It could just be something, but you have to choose it for yourself. And nobody can do this for you. Nobody can fix you. Uh,
Mm.
we have to be self-motivated. I'm a joy addict. That's a good thing for me. I will do whatever it takes to get closer to happy and further from sad. I'm averse to
Mm,
sad. I'm averse to stress. Some people, as you know, like to
mm,
wallow in that. I don't recommend
mm.
that route. I say, get yourself out of that ditch as
Yeah,
quickly as you can. Throw yourself a rope, climb on out. And, joy is to be found if you look for it.
right. I love that idea of trying to maintain a focus on forward motion
Yeah.
and acknowledge the emotions, feel them, right? We can't pretend they don't exist, but we
Right.
we don't have to make them our best friend. We don't have to sit with them for a long period of time. We
Yeah.
have to acknowledge them and then move forward.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you because I know for myself, a fellow writer, sometimes when I feel those tinges of pain, right? Those tinges of stress, and I recognize that something is really threatening to disturb my peace, the quickest way to process it is to write about it or write a podcast episode or write a blog, work on the book. And I noticed that in the time that you were facing so many challenges, you somehow also carved out the time to write. What motivated that?
What's so interesting is with cancer, I would say just generically, I'm a fairly private person. My role
Mm,
professionally is so public that I don't like my private world going around. I always,
mm.
for example, we always see those friends on Facebook who are talking about their diarrhea, and I think, are you kidding me? Why do we need to know this? Or they're sharing the gory details of their divorce, and I think, oh Lord,
Mm,
stop, right? So when I had no choice but to tell people I was going through cancer care because I was going to show up bald and wigs
mm,
weren't for me. So I thought they're going to ask questions. So I had to reveal that. But I really, I didn't feel comfortable sharing all the hardships as it was happening. My role, I know
mm,
my role in the world is Little Miss Fitzness is of health and happiness and not
Mm.
pain and suffering. And all I had in many ways was pain and suffering. So trying to keep things to myself. When people say, "How are you?" No matter what was wrong with me, I just say, "I'm fine. I'm doing okay. It's going great." And so
Mm.
at some point I started learning these lessons. I was having these aha moments due to my treatment. And then I was always also having these super wacky moments where I mean, were hitting the fan in the weirdest, craziest ways. I was having these wild experiences, and I kept thinking, "How come nobody's talking about this stuff? How
Mm.
come nobody's mentioning any of this?" If you have cancer, people know you'll be sick, you'll be bald, you'll probably be tired. But people don't know that your nostril hair falls out. And I mean, that's a wacky thing to have happen. And all of a sudden your nose is pouring, and that's weird. And
Mm.
when I
Yeah.
went bald, it wasn't just my bald head. I've parted my hair down the center my whole life. So I was a
Mm.
skunk. I had this tan line, this skunk stripe down my head. And it was just
Oh.
weird, silly, wacky things. My eyes changed colors out of town. That was a
Mm.
fiasco. So, anywho, I started thinking, you know what? People would get a kick out of this. They would laugh. I wanted the laughter, but then
Mm.
once I made some headway through my treatment, I started thinking, you know what? I could help people, and that's what I do, right? So I
Mm.
started writing the book. My treatment was, I think, February of 2019 to May 2020. Started writing the book in October, and I, I'm a messenger. That's what I am. I'm a communicator. This vehicle to help people live better and live longer. And so I was excited about putting some of these aha moments down, the lessons learned, and then of course telling the funny tales. And what I find as a speaker, if I can keep a room laughing, which I do, even if I've got a very serious message, I keep things very light.
Mm.
When people start laughing, they put down their phones because they don't want to be the
Mm.
only person in the room who missed the joke. And so I
Mm.
can captivate an audience on science by keeping it funny. And so the book, just there was a lot of that. I wanted to share the importance, health information and the perspective. And then I also wanted to tell these really funny tales. So yeah, writing is a great outlet for me. And I'm just a communicator. It's another nice outlet.
Yeah, and I love how you sought other ways when you could have been very isolated, and even you were receiving the feedback that maybe you should become isolated. You actually
Yeah.
sought new ways to communicate. So maybe if you couldn't be on stage that day, you could still write.
I could have. Thankfully, I never missed a day on a stage. But
Oh
yeah,
my
I'm
goodness.
I'm I would do whatever it takes to do the thing I do. And that's the other thing is, folks, if you are not in a career that you adore, start
Mm.
looking, because we spend so many of our waking hours with work. You should do something you enjoy and you care about deeply.
Mm.
Find the work that you would do, fall sick with cancer, and you'll be in the right place.
Mm, find your joy. Well, I will say when I was researching your career and your life, I felt such a kinship with you because I
Hmm.
think, when you are a person who does all the things, right? Especially when you come to a point in your life where you could pare back, right? You've got these new challenges
Yeah.
in your personal life, your health, and you could pare back. And instead, you decide to go the opposite direction and you actually expand and you don't say, well, I'm a fitness person, so why should I have a podcast? But you say, wow, I can do a fitness related podcast, and wow, I
Yeah.
can spread my message, and I can write a book about what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And you just pick up this amazing momentum forward of thinking of all the things you can do instead of saying, well, I'm just going to focus, because for some people staying hyper focused is very good and it allows them to have balance in their life. For others of us, when we allow ourselves to just expand and we don't
Right.
trim ourselves back, but we just allow ourselves to grow, then it feels like you have more balance in your life because you're not hiding parts of yourself. You're not cutting off parts of yourself. And I love that. And I see that in you and I see that energy. And I'm just so glad that you're in this place in your life where you are doing all of the things.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's interesting to know who you are and what you're capable of. And if something's not in my wheelhouse, I don't do it. If it doesn't have interest to me and it doesn't take advantage of my talents,
Mm.
I'll leave that to the other person, right? But the communicating on health and fitness is what I do. And so I will keep knocking on every door and trying to share those messages and encouraging people to get up and get active and do the right thing. But yeah, and for me, it's really nice to have so much variety. And so this weekend I was in
Mm.
Fargo hosting a marathon and hosting panels with running icons. And this week I'm doing a ton of media interviews, and I am writing the next book. And so I'm never bored. It sounds like you're probably in the same boat. I'm never bored with what I do,
Never,
ever.
never bored.
Yeah, I
And
do get
not
writer's
everyone
block
understands.
sometimes, so I think, oh, I just can't do that right now. But that's not
What do you
really
do?
boredom.
Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
do when you get writer's block? What is your path of least resistance to opening your mind up?
So I'm very fortunate that I'm in charge of everything here at Fitzness, and if I'm not feeling it, I just don't do it. Now,
Mm.
when I'm working on somebody else's timetable as their speaker, I am on their timetable and I figure it out to get it done. But writing is something I do proactively, and so I will sometimes let a month go by without jumping back in. But what I find is once I get on a roll, once I get inspired, I want to start writing again, it just pours out of me. And I like that best. In fact, I do most of my book writing on airplanes.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
that I'm trapped for 5 hours. I bounce back and
Yes.
forth to California often. And it's just, I'm sitting there, it's quiet, and I can be highly productive on an airplane. So I know what works for me. And if I'm not there, I let it go until I am.
I love that. I live a transcontinental life. My husband actually lives in Europe, and so we
Wow.
spend a lot of time on those transatlantic flights. And I am right there with you. That is some of my best time. So if you ever see me in an airport, please say hi. That's
Yeah.
great. We'll make a reel, we'll have fun, right? But like honestly, if my head's down, it's not that I'm antisocial. I'm like you. I mean, it's such a great time because you could technically be bored, right? You're just sitting
Hmm.
there. You don't necessarily have the distractions of your daily life. And then the
Yeah.
creative juices just come and you can get so much done in that
Yeah.
flight.
And the other thing nice about when you right. There's always room for editing, right? You just put
Mm,
out whatever you're putting out. When I'm on a microphone, people are hearing it. There's always thousands of people listening, and you can't take it back. So you better be prepared. You better be an expert. You
mm,
better be eloquent and concise, etc. But when you're writing, there's so much room for repair. So just vomit
mm.
out as many thoughtful words into your computer as you can, and then go back and tidy it up another day.
I love it. That's great advice. I wanted to ask you to kind of cycle back to the feelings that you had when you were coping with cancer and coping with the treatments from the perspective of someone who had built this empire around fitness, around kind of being able to control your body, being able to control your
Yeah.
nutrition, control your body in that sense. How did that feel in the harder moments that you didn't have that same agency over your body as you had before the diagnosis? Did you ever feel that way?
Yeah, yeah. So the one thing I never ever felt was shame. I never had any embarrassment over who I was or who I was becoming. And
Mm,
I'm the girl who did walk the walk and do my best. And I had a cell go rogue. That's it. I don't feel like there was um, a, a
mhm.
deity that planted a seed of doom. I don't believe that I did any. I don't.
No.
I'm unaware of any behavior I might have struck up to cause this cancer. For some of us, it's a
Right.
fluke, and I believe that was me. But I, I was. I'm I'm 5'5.5". I always add my half, but I was about 125 of my weight before
Yeah.
or at the time of diagnosis. And about halfway through, the weight was pouring off, pouring off. I hit
Mm,
110 and I was a skeleton, and it
yeah.
was rough. And it was about the time where my poor mom, you know, I felt sad I was going through what I was going through, but I really felt sad for my mom, because if you can imagine
Mm,
watching your child endure this stuff, even though I'm a grown up, I'm still her baby, right? So
of course.
it was about the same time where she said, "You need to eat. You look like you were in the Holocaust." And I was like, "Yep,
Mm,
I know exactly what I look like." And it was alarming. I mean, it was
mm,
alarming. My arms and my leg were so skinny, and um my tush, my previously firm, meaty tush was I looked like I had a 90-year-old's rear end, just a saggy can, and
Hmm.
I was gaunt, and at some
Yeah.
point, even my face I had all of these wrinkles because I had lost all the
Mm.
face and fat in my face. So it was unnerving, and I had a few key moments that were kind of really unpleasant for me. Number one, I had gone into a Lululemon. I was in Carlsbad, California, going to announce a Carlsbad marathon and needing a little
Mm.
retail therapy. So I thought, oh, I'll go to Lulu, which I spend too much money at Lululemon, but that's a different story. So I go in there and I used to wear a size 6. And I was with a friend who I announced with. And I find a pair of pants and the lady says, "What size do you wear?" And I said, "Get me a size 6." And she looks at me and she shakes her head and laughs. She goes, "You're no size 6." And
Mm.
some people would think, "Oh, skinny is better." No, skinny is not good.
Mm.
Lean is fine. Skinny, scary. So I'm
Mhm.
standing there facing her, and I had kind of thought maybe people around me don't know I've lost so much weight. Maybe it's only I know this. And so she says this kind of, I don't know. She was being friendly, but
Mm.
I'm standing there like a deer in headlights with my eyes all welled up. And my buddy Rudy,
Mm.
he goes to the lady, he goes, "Get her a size 6." And he takes me and he
Mm.
kind of steers me in a different direction. He goes at some point and tells her she's doing chemo right now. Get her all the sixes she asked for. And so that was kind of alarming that I knew like other people could notice. And
Mm.
then I remember towards the end of my chemo, I was walking down the beach in Fort Lauderdale. I'm sorry, in Daytona, not Fort Lauderdale, with my family.
Mm.
And I did have on a two-piece, a little swimsuit. And I was thinking, people probably think I'm anorexic. And again,
Mm.
anybody else's opinion of me is not my business. So I don't base anything I do on earth based around anybody else's position. But yeah, it was so interesting where I thought, they probably think I'm
Mm.
anorexic. This is pretty bad. I mean, it's just you get those
Mm.
moments. And of course, just being bald, my hair isn't who I am. I cried when it fell out. I did not like it. Every time I looked in the mirror, I was alarmed. Like, who is that person? Right.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
uh, I had to do a lot of faking it. I remember at Big Sur
Mm.
Marathon, I had to put on a dress and go to this VIP party. And I was just looking in the mirror thinking, God almighty, what has happened to me? Like, look at you. How did this happen to you? And so I take a deep breath and I just tell myself that, pretend you have all the confidence. Just pretend, hold your head up high and
Mm.
fake it. And so I did. I went into that party and I had my head held up high and I had done my best with my makeup. What can you do? Right. And I had my little dress on and I got through the party. I got through it. I felt like hell, but I got through it. And then the next day, this was pretty cool. This gaggle of ladies came over, probably about 5, these very cutesy lady, and they always run Big Sur.
Mm.
And they came over the next day and they said something like, "Oh, you're so trendy and how cool that you shaved your head." And I said, "What? I
Yeah.
didn't shave my head. I have cancer." And they said, "We thought you were a model." Now, I don't think anyone on earth thinks I'm a model or anything, but they thought that I had done this for some sort of
Mm.
modeling reason. And I just thought, well, that that's that fake confidence. So whoever you are,
Mm.
if you're any steps above bald and gray, perhaps you can pull off supermodel too, just by holding your head high and smiling. And yeah, till you make it, fake it. That was a big lesson for me, and I had to do that a whole bunch during my treatment. But I still do
Mm.
it now. Sometimes I feel like, look at you, yeah, yucky thing. And then I put on the big smile and people respond positively to me. So we all have it in us.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, we do, and I think also, you truly have that mindset of gratitude. We all have these little thought gremlins,
Yeah.
right? Most of us, we have had them as roommates since we were children, and they're gonna tell us things, but we don't have to believe them. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay that we hear them. That's okay.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna hear them. We might do a lot of mindset work, which, I've done that work, you've done that work, so that we hear them less often. But when our body feels like it's betraying us or when we are really stressed, right, we are still going to have incidents where they poke their heads in and they give us their opinion, and it's not an opinion that serves us, it's okay to hear them, but it's really important to learn how to say, yes, I hear you. I don't have to respond to that.
Yeah.
That's not my voice anymore.
Yeah, and also defend yourself. So many people say things
Mm,
about themselves that they would never let anyone say to their best friend. And
mm,
I realized
yeah.
what I was going through. Oof, I was being assaulted every day. I had been
Yeah.
battered, and there was nothing easy in my life. And so I just was very forgiving. As I
Mm,
wasn't pretty, and I didn't feel the same energy I had, and I didn't have. I let my podcast go that year. I didn't have
mm,
the energy once I got home. I let a chunk of my business go. I also didn't want to talk about myself, and I'm so very open on my
mm,
podcast, and I let it go, and I look back and I don't it is what it is. I did my best, and that's fine. If somebody wants to call me stupid or whatever, okay. I don't care what you think about me. I know where I am in the world. So, if you're there and you're thinking, you're too skinny, or you're bald, or you're this, or okay, who cares if you're skinny and bald? Whatever. You're surviving. I don't even like being called a survivor. It makes me feel like a victim. It's such a
mm,
pathetic word to stick
mm,
on a person. But the
mhm,
reality is you're just kind of doggy paddling for your life, not only with cancer, but MS and ALS. There's a whole bunch of
mhm.
things that can try to bring a person down. And if you're doggy
Absolutely.
paddling, hanging in there, then be proud of that. And whatever to all the stupid little thoughts that come at you from your head
Yeah.
or somebody else's.
Yeah, and there are people who have negative thoughts about us, again, like you said,
Mhm.
kinda who the short end of it, who cares, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
their thoughts have way more to do with their thoughts about themselves than they do have anything to do
yeah.
with us.
So I
Um,
ask you, you do your best
yeah.
all the time, like you're doing
Oh,
close to your
yeah.
best most days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to be a good person, trying to follow the law and pay your own bills and help like, who cares what somebody thinks about us if they don't like
Yeah.
our the way we look or our sense of humor or our
Yeah.
job? Okay, fine. I can't please everybody. I'm not trying. That's fine. Right?
No, you shouldn't try, and that's the thing, if you're trying to please everyone, you're pleasing no one, right? And start with
Yeah.
pleasing yourself, and then
Mhm.
you're gonna find the people that need your support, that need what you bring just by living your life and being happy. But I
Yeah.
I wanna say that, you know, we are so hard on ourselves. Those gremlins can get so loud about, I'm not pretty, I'm not this, I'm not meeting my own expectations that are really they're mine, but they're these external expectations that,
Right.
maybe no one even ever actually said to me, but because of society and family and all these things in childhood, they became a part of the fabric of how I see the world and how I see I should show up. But then we have these moments where a dear friend of mine passed away from cancer. The amazing thing is she would say those things about herself that, her hair had fallen out and she didn't feel beautiful. She didn't feel useful was something
Oh,
she really struggled
okay.
with
That's sad. Yeah.
because yeah, because she had been able to do a lot of things
Yeah.
and she had really prided herself on being a doer, and she didn't feel that she was probably doing 80% of the things, which is still a lot,
Yeah.
but she wasn't meeting her metric. So even though what other people saw as, wow, she looks beautiful, she's amazing,
Yeah.
she's still doing 80%, even though she has 10% of the physical energy that she had when she was doing 200%, right?
Yeah.
We saw that, but her opinion of herself, unfortunately, was often quite low, and she saw herself as failing. And then because she saw herself as that, I think that compounded her suffering, and we as
Yeah.
her friends really worked really hard to try to impart upon her how we saw her. But that's the gift of the mindset work, is learning how to see yourself that way and give yourself that gift of resilience when you go
Yeah.
through those challenges, like when you went through your challenge and you said, "No, I'm staying focused. I believe in myself. I'm going to do this today and the next day."
Yeah, yeah. I'm stubborn to my own benefit. Getting on all those planes was hard. That was a rough time. My
Mhm.
husband would drop me off right before TSA. He would look into my glossy eyes and he would say, how are you going to do this? He had just seen what was going on with me. And I would say, I just am. I just am. And I just did. I did every single time. I never failed once. And so we had to get creative. Many of my race directors organized IV fluids for me across the country. I had
Mm,
nurses bringing IV bags to my hotel rooms, and we got creative, but
mm,
I was determined. And again, I don't think anybody has ever chosen me based on my appearance, and the way I'm supposed to look. Maybe I feel good about myself. I don't think I belong on any magazine covers. I don't think anyone's like, "Whoa, let's be her friend because she's pretty." That's just not the reality. Nobody really gets any benefit from me having long hair. Nobody has great benefit from me having a strong curvy body other than myself. And
mm,
so yeah, it's just like, well, my value to them is my knowledge, my enthusiasm, my messaging, my encouragement. Those are the things that are of value to them. And those are the things that are still there. The other things are just
mm,
my problem. They really are my problem. And if they weren't a problem for me, or at least problems that I could just get past, and, for me, I believe they were temporary. Being told I was curable, I said, okay, well, I'm here at rock bottom. I'm at 110 pounds. I'm a little noisy skeleton. My best friend used to call me noisy mannequin, which was hilarious. But I, thankfully, as a fitness expert, was able to craft a step by step, detailed game plan to get me strong and vibrant again. And I
mm,
never had a setback because I took all these little baby steps, and there was strength and there was cardio and flexibility and balance. I just gently built myself up one day, one bit of time at one bit at a time. And now I'm back to being super strong and vibrant and healthy and all of those things. But now it's just about helping other people through it, right? That's what the books are for. And when life comes and punches me in the face again, it might take me down on one knee. I will not go down on my back. That's not how I roll, but I will get up and I will figure a way to turn it into a positive, because that's who I am and that's what I do.
That is so inspiring. And I
Mm.
know that people listening today are feeling the same way as I do. Just that wonderful, uplifted feeling hearing your story. What's next for you?
Everything, everything. So I have another book coming out. This one will be just for the masses, not folks going through any sort of treatment. The Cancer Comeback series stands alone right now. I might add on to that, but yeah, the next one will be a health and fitness book for the masses. Help them achieve their ideal weight. Understand nutrition should not be so complicated. Understand
Mm,
the nuts and bolts of fitness and how to make it attainable, understandable, and fun.
mm.
And so that's what's next. I got a bunch of great corporate keynotes coming up, and I love doing that. A whole bunch of races ahead, and I don't know. I just keep doing what I'm doing. And when I get thrown an interesting invitation that seems like something I can handle, I'll jump on that too. But yeah, just stay the course, right? Stay the course.
Yeah. And I love that really truly. So you said, you live like you live it, right? You don't just preach it, you
Yeah.
live it. And there's that connection between how you addressed your challenge with dealing with cancer and coming through that and how you address how we stay fit, how we deal with our nutrition. And it's in
Yeah.
these bite-sized, attainable
Yeah.
pieces because that is truly the key to success is by creating new habits and having actionable goals, having a path, having accountability. And I love how with your Fitzness brand, you really focus on achievability, accountability, showing up for yourself and doing the work and not getting distracted by little flashy things that are saying, take
No.
this or this miracle
No.
thing that's going to just
Yeah.
distract you from things that really work.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, everybody, 100% of the entire world's population has a capacity to be fitter.
Mm,
Maybe we're not all going to be Michael Phelps. Okay. But can we be better? We can. We can be better than we are now. And so, with a little bit of know how, without, the industry vultures taking advantage of you and your bank account, trying to get you to buy pills and powders and do their quick fix workout, exercise is a good thing. There is no quick fix. It's baby steps for everybody involved, right?
and showing up. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to have heard your story of how you showed up for yourself every day. and how you continue to do that now. But now also you're bringing us all into the fold and showing us how we can show up better for ourselves, for our health and our fitness and our life. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And yeah, everyone go and get the books. Fitz, how can people find everything about you so they can learn more?
Yeah, so if you come to fitzness.com, it's Fitzness.com. That's my home base for everything. And sure, you can learn a little more about me, but more importantly, you can learn a whole heck of a lot about you. There's a ton of free workout videos. There's the exact formula for weight loss is just teaching you how to eat the right amount of the right food for the size you want to be. Of course, the Cancer Comeback series is available there. That's my noisy cancer comeback, your Healthy Cancer Comeback, and the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. Those are available. If you purchase them through fitzness.com, I sign them all. I throw in a free gift. I wrap them beautifully so the recipients feel special. But those books are all available on Amazon. And then I'm at Fitzness on Instagram and Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on the Fitzness Show is wherever you listen to podcasts. And yeah, try and avoid me, folks. It's not going to happen. That's right. So, hey, listen, if you follow, I promise quality content in return. But really, what I'd rather have are friends than followers. So if you follow, please reach
Mm.
out, say you heard me on Dr. Shafer's podcast, and then we could be besties because that's what I'm out for.
I love it. And as I said at the top of our time together, that you bring, energy to everything you do and you did not disappoint. I
Oh,
feel so
thanks.
energized from this conversation, and I'm sure that listeners do too. I will make sure that everything that Fitz just shared with regards to how to learn more about her and her mission is in the show notes in case you missed it, so you'll be able to find it and learn more. Thank you so much, Fitz, for being here.
Thank you for having me and love you all.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. If you have questions or comments, please leave them below and share this episode with someone that you think would benefit from it. Stay safe and take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Everybody's lonely, but you can hold on to